They sold my car without telling me, just to pay for my sister's dorm decor, and I still thank them, because I thought, maybe one day, they'd be proud of me too, but at my graduation? They didn't even show up on time. When they finally arrived, their first words were, "You should have worn more makeup. You look tired." Before we go deeper, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe every underdog deserves a voice. You won't believe what happens next. They hugged my sister first, even though she didn't even graduate the day. I stood there in my black gown, holding a 4.0 GPA and a full scholarship I earned scrubbing dorm bathrooms at 4 a.m. They didn't clap. They didn't smile. My name was called, and all they did was check their phones. After the ceremony, Mom pulled me aside. "You know, Leah," she whispered, "you could have just taken a break. You didn't have to work like a maid just to prove a point." A break? I was doing her laundry in high school while she helped my sister pack for college tours in Paris. They had paid every cent for Claire's private university, housing, books, even study abroad trips. For me? Nothing. They said I should learn independence. Still, I didn't complain. I saved every penny from my 2 part-time jobs. I shared books. I downloaded free PDFs while Claire got brand new hardcovers shipped express, and even then, I invited them to my graduation with a smile. I wanted to believe. Maybe this time, they'd see me, but no. Claire showed up in a designer outfit, one Mom clearly bought, and started talking about her internship at some fashion brand. Dad laughed. "Now that's a career. Not whatever you're doing with computer code." I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him I just signed my first 6-figure contract with a tech firm that builds software for government security. I didn't tell him they had offered me equity and relocation bonuses, because I was saving that for later. But then Claire leaned in and said something that turned my blood cold. "Mom and Dad are thinking of buying me a condo in LA, now that I'm done with school." A condo. After everything. That's when I pulled out the envelope from my bag, the one with my name on it, the one they never thought I'd have. "Actually," I said, calm but shaking inside, "you might want to hold off on that condo." They looked confused. I handed Dad the paper. He opened it, and his jaw locked, because right there was a signed property transfer document. One that proved I had just bought the apartment Claire had been eyeing online for weeks, with cash. Mom's face drained of color like she'd seen a ghost. Claire grabbed the paper from Dad's hands and read it twice, her lips moving silently as if her brain refused to accept the words, "You bought it." She finally choked out. "You bought that condo?" I nodded, slowly. "The one on Melrose with the rooftop patio," I said. "Yeah. I closed last week." Claire's hands trembled. "That's impossible. You work in computers." Mom's voice was sharper. "Where did you get that kind of money, Leah? What have you been doing?" The disgust in her tone wasn't even subtle. Like the only way I could have earned real money was if I did something dirty or illegal. I smiled, but not with joy. With the kind of smile you give when someone finally sees who you are. "Just a little too late. I built a cybersecurity tool during my sophomore year," I said. "Companies started paying to use it. One of them bought exclusive rights last month." Dad scoffed. "That sounds made up. You don't just sell a tool and get rich." I turned to Claire, ignoring him. "Remember the day you laughed at me for skipping Thanksgiving dinner to stay in my dorm and play with my laptop? That was the night I finished the beta version." Claire blinked, stunned. But you always wore cheap clothes," she whispered. "You walked everywhere. You borrowed my old iPad." "Because I was investing everything," I said, "into my idea. While you were unboxing designer bags on Instagram, I was negotiating contracts on Zoom." Dad was getting red. "If you had money, why didn't you help out?" "We could've help out," I said, my voice rising for the first time. "You told me to pay rent when I came home for Christmas. You gave Claire free rides, free tuition, free everything, and told me it was tough love. You made fun of me for being broke." Mom's eyes darted nervously around the crowd. People were starting to look. Some parents. Some faculty. Even a couple of students. The whispers had begun. "Let's talk about this privately," she hissed. "No," I said. "You made me feel small in public. I think it's fair you hear the truth in public too." Claire was still frozen, but her voice cracked now. "So what, you're just here to rub it in our faces?" I stared at her. "No. I'm here to remind you that even if you're ignored, mocked, and counted out, you can still win. You just have to be willing to win in silence." And just when I thought the moment couldn't get any more intense, Dean Thomas walked over, the same Dean my parents ignored when he handed me my award. He looked right at my mom and dad and said, "You must be Leah's parents. Congratulations. Her work's already being studied in our graduate curriculum. She's brilliant." Their mouths hung open, and then, the photographers showed up, snapping pictures of me and the dean, while my parents were asked to step aside. Mom didn't move at first. Neither did Dad. It was like someone had pressed pause on their world. Claire just stood there, blinking rapidly, clutching her designer purse like it could somehow protect her from the truth unraveling in front of her. One of the photographers looked confused. "Are you the parents?" he asked. "We're only taking shots with the awardees and faculty." Dad stepped back without saying a word. Mom's hand slowly slipped off my shoulder, and she gave the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "We'll wait over there," she muttered and pulled Claire with her. The photographer turned to me. "Let's get a few solo shots. You're one of the standout graduates this year, and one of the youngest to license tech at your level. Impressive stuff." I forced a smile for the camera, but inside, I was still trembling, not because I wasn't proud, but because it still hurt. No matter how much I achieved, deep down, I had still wanted one thing, their genuine pride. But now, I knew, it was never about what I did. It was about who they chose to see. And that was never me. After the photos, the dean pulled me aside and whispered, "You've got a future beyond even what you imagine. The people who didn't see it? That's their loss. Don't let them shrink your light." That line hit deeper than I expected, and just then, my phone buzzed. A new email, subject, "Final confirmation, Leah R., you're in." It was from the Defense Contracting Committee. The offer I had been waiting for. Clearance confirmed. Salary, $240,000 base, plus bonuses. I didn't even blink. Just turned my phone toward Claire, who had clearly been watching me the whole time. Her eyes narrowed. "What now? More flexing?" I said nothing. I just let her read it. Her lips moved silently again. Then her eyes snapped up, panic bubbling beneath the surface. "You're joining the Federal Tech Task Force?" She stammered. "Yep," I said. Mom tried to speak. "Why didn't you tell us about this?" "We could've," I cut her off. "Because I knew exactly how you'd respond. You only believe in what you understand. And you never even tried to understand me." Dad finally cracked. "So what? You think you're better than us now?" "No," I said softly. "I've always been better than the version of me you created in your head. The one you left behind the second Claire showed interest in law school." Claire folded her arms. "So what now? You're gonna cut us off? Ignore your family just because you made money?" I laughed once, cold, sharp. "You ignored me for 22 years. I'm just finally returning the favor." And then I turned, started walking away, but right before I reached the parking lot, I stopped. There was one last thing they needed to know. I spun back around and raised my voice just enough for them, and the onlookers, to hear. "Oh, and the condo you were gonna buy for Claire? Don't bother. I just signed the lease for a non-profit women in tech incubator. Rent-free spots for underprivileged girls, who actually need support." Claire gasped. Mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. Dad looked like he might explode. I didn't wait for their reaction this time. I just got into my car, my new one, sleek, electric, and fully paid for, and as I drove off, I didn't cry. I smiled, because finally, I wasn't proving anything to them. I was finally living for me. 2 weeks later, I received a card in the mail. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in familiar handwriting. Inside was a short note. "Leah, we didn't mean to hurt you. You've changed, and we clearly don't know you anymore. But we'd like to. Please let us try. Mom and Dad." I stared at it for a long time, not because it moved me, but because it was the first time they acknowledged I had changed. Too little, too late. That same day, I was invited as a guest speaker at a tech forum downtown. I wasn't just a graduate anymore. I was now a funded founder, a developer, a voice. The auditorium was packed. Industry leaders, press, students. And somewhere in the back, I spotted Dean Thomas smiling proudly. The host introduced me as the genius behind the silent storm in cyber defense. I stepped up to the mic, heart pounding, but steady. "I was once told I wasn't worth investing in," I began. "That I should take a break instead of building my future. So I did. I broke away, and built it alone. People leaned in. I was told I didn't belong in rooms like this. So I created a platform where girls who look like me, hustle like me, and get overlooked like me, will never have to beg to be seen. Applause started. I wasn't done. See, people talk about success like it's handed to you. But some of us? We built it from silence. From scraps. From watching others get celebrated while we learned in shadows. Now the room was still. Listening, and when the time came, we didn't just rise, we rose louder. The applause exploded. Afterward, multiple investors approached me. Offers, congratulations, proposals for partnerships. But none of them mattered as much as what happened next. A girl, maybe 19, walked up to me, eyes watery. You don't know me, she said, but your story? It's mine too. I thought I was invisible. But now I think maybe I'm just waiting for my turn to shine. I reached out and hugged her tightly, because that moment? That was the point of all of it, the money, the condo, the speech, it all meant something only if it lit a path behind me. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Claire. I don't expect forgiveness. But, if you ever want to talk, I'm here. I see it now. You were never the quiet one. You were just never heard. I'm sorry. That one? I read twice, but I didn't reply, not because I hated her, but because some bridges don't need to burn, they just need to stand alone. Months passed, life moved fast, but quietly. Just the way I liked it. My days were filled with meetings, strategy, sessions, and coding late into the night. But this time, it wasn't in a freezing dorm room. It was in my own sunlit office, with my name on the door and a view of the skyline I once dreamed of from library windows. The nonprofit I launched? It was thriving. Dozens of girls, some from foster homes, others from backgrounds like mine, were now building their own tools, pitching their own ideas, dreaming louder than anyone ever allowed them to before, and every time one of them smiled at me like I was someone worth looking up to, I knew I had done the right thing. One chilly afternoon, I received a call I wasn't expecting. The lawyer who handled my condo deal, Leah, he said cautiously, your parents reached out. Apparently, they're selling their house. There's been some financial trouble. I stayed silent. They asked if they could use your name. Said it might help with the process, your credibility, your success. They said your family. Family, that word used to mean warmth. Now, it felt like a suit that never quite fit. I thought about all the birthdays they skipped, all the "we're proud of Claire" speeches I sat through like a ghost, all the times they looked at me and only saw less. No, I said finally. Tell them I wish them peace. But I'm not a name they can borrow when it's convenient. He sighed. Understood. That night, I walked out onto my rooftop. The same space where I once imagined what life might be like if anyone had believed in me, and for the first time, I wasn't imagining. I was living it. Then, my phone buzzed. It was a video from the girls at my nonprofit. They were unveiling a plaque on the wall. It read, "The Leah Initiative, for the girls who were told no." My throat tightened. My eyes burned, because maybe I wasn't just the underdog who won, maybe I was the blueprint. I sat down, pulled out my laptop, and opened a blank page. At the top, I typed, Chapter 1. They laughed at me, but I built an empire in silence. And as the screen glowed in front of me, I realized something. The best revenge isn't just success. It's building something so powerful that even the people who doubted you have to live in the world you created.